Hello everyone and welcome to His Author's Voice. I am the author, Jack Sanger. The following story concerns that experience that probably everybody has at some point in their lives, if they drive cars particularly, which is where something makes them take a break in a small town they didn't even know was there and would probably never visit again. I hope you like it. The Infinity Agency. It was a normal enough street, though I know what constitutes normal depends on the witness. My normal involved having seen streets like it across the globe. Streets of low-rise, undifferentiated buildings. Streets which do nothing to entice you to live in them. Streets selling just the basics. Streets which have no shadowy offshoots, with runnels hiding secrets. Anyway, I did not choose to be in that town. The exhaust on my car had broken free to bounce on the road, and an anonymous habitation called Horizon was the nearest for a repair. I knew this because I have an eidetic memory for maps. I don't need voice-over SMS or digital mapping on the dashboard. I left my Land Rover for a couple of hours at the garage on the edge of the main street, took a look at the town map on the garage wall and was wandering along, wondering what sort of people might choose to live here. Imagining the economic forces compressing them into what seemed like a social prison without guards. I must have passed a dozen people, but can't remember any details about them. Only the mechanic's face hangs vaguely in my memory. Fattish, red, in blue overalls. I can't remember his accent. About halfway down the street was a side road. I stopped. It wasn't in my mental recall. It was more a dirt lane, and tantalizingly I could make out a sign hanging above a tiny shop. It was evening, and the symbol for infinity, often called a lazy 8, was quite distinct. It aroused my curiosity. It was strange that there was a mystery shop in an unidentified alleyway in a nondescript town. What was it selling? Or servicing? I could imagine a hanging infinity symbol in the plusher end of a city where niche retailers go for such flashy ornamentation. But here? It drew me. I turned into the alley and approached it, feeling surprisingly cagey. There was an odd heat in the air with a sort of over-richness of oxygen you might find in a conservatory for tropical plants. I'm a nomad in many ways and have developed second sight concerning possible danger. Anyway, with the hairs creeping on my neck, I stood before the flaked, dark green door. The sign was bright above me. Then, without even lifting my hand to touch it, the door opened. The room beyond was lit by a hanging orb, and looked at first glance more like a cosmetics salon. I stepped inside, and as I did so, the sign above the door abruptly extinguished. The door clicked shut behind me. The walls were covered in mirror glass. Not only that, but there were no sharp edges to them. The room was, in fact, more like a dome. This meant that my reflections, which were everywhere, iterated into the distance on all sides, becoming ever smaller. There were hundreds of me. A bench ran down the room's centre. Sheets of photographic paper were piled on it, covered in what looked like galactic constellations and mathematical equations. I'm educated enough to recognize infinity and some other symbols, and it came to my mind that this was some kind of navigational plotting for journeys through the stars. I don't know how I knew this, yet I had the curious sensation that I was right. Why was it thus? And for whom were the maps prepared? You can imagine my curiosity. As no one had yet appeared to greet me, I opted to sit on the sole seat by the bench and take more cognizance of the room. There was a small circular pad, and I picked it up, giving the central button a squeeze, assuming it would call someone. Something changed. As my eyes travelled the dome's volume, I had the same sense I once had when suffering oxygen starvation on a mountain top. But instead of finding the view from the peak receding and then magnifying before me, dizzyingly, here the room seemed to dilate exponentially with me a part of it. The room and I continued to expand, to the point where it was no longer an enclosure, but an endless space with no apparent limits, and my body was hovering in a diffused haze of atoms at its centre. Of course, writing this, the very concept seems laughable, unreal, or even shocking. Yet I did not find it so at the time. I felt deeply at peace with the experience. Just as devotees of Eastern meditation talk about oneness and nothingness. I tried to take stock of my situation. Instead of my 5 senses, another form of awareness, an unconscious, subliminal kind of perception emerged and became, how should I say it, bereft of an appropriate language, it became physical. As though all my diffused atoms had harmonized and connected together to form a single I, and the I was me and all of me. I realized that to move and explore was an absurd notion, for wherever I imagined I might go, I would always remain at the center of endless space and time. Of course, how long I was there is also a meaningless concept, and only took on substance when I found myself returning to my state of being when I first entered the shop and sat down. So I returned. You know that this must have been the case, my dear reader, because how else would these very words enter your consciousness? How else would there be a record of my exit from our reality, yours and mine, into this other, and then back again? Time had certainly passed by. I saw it was around an hour. My 5 senses were coming alive. I was aware that someone had entered the room. She was young, adolescent, full of bounce and smile. She had a pale green skin and silver hair. Her dark eyes were faintly luminous, and her white-suited body radiated a faint electrical mist. "Good afternoon," she said in a meticulously unaccented voice that seemed as much inside my head as inside the room. She dropped into sales talk. "Service Android A101 at your service. I am so sorry you were forced to take a break in the endless." She indicated the little pad. "At least it cuts down on the boredom. We've been very busy. Queues for ringside seats as our majestic universe flexes its muscles. A red supergiant is all the rage. Beetlejuice is popping. You're looking to on-go, I assume? An opportunist preferring spontaneity?" She indicated the photo advertising. Did you find a bargain on offer? Glad you chose our company. Have you decided, or are you wanting our advice? Let me see. Oh, you are not on our premium customer list. So infinity is not your limit, as our ad makes clear. My reaction must have arrested her flow. What's the matter? She asked. What are you? I blurted, obviously looking helplessly confused and anxious. Oh no, she sighed, examining me slowly and carefully. Really? This is too much. Looks like we've had another glitch. What? I'm awfully sorry. Just wait here for a moment. I need to contact HQ. She left me there. Ordinary time stretched and she didn't reappear. I examined one of the star maps in detail. Then I saw she had left the door ajar. I went over to listen. The voices were quite perfunctory and without intonation. I only heard a few seconds of her boss laying down the law before everything around me began to shut down. Back in time as if he never found the agency. Remember, seamless, logical. Instantly I felt that dizziness. The room changed, the wall's mirrors turned cloudy, then gave way to dirty white walls with metal tiles, and odd nuts, bolts and bits of rubber hose scattered on the bench. A cash register appeared at its far end. The symbols on the strewn papers now showed instructional diagrams of engines, bodywork, transmissions, and other Land Rover features. There was an acrid smell of oil and fumes in the room. Weirdly, I was holding a pressure gauge for tyres in my hand. I put it down as the outside door opened, and in walked the car mechanic. Sorry I was so long, he said. Must have seemed endless waiting in here. Not there's much to see in Horizon. I always think we are just a way station for refuelling travellers who get caught short. Anyway, your monster is ready to go for a few thousand more miles now. Take you wherever you want to go, within reason. I'll go and sort out your bill. That night, in a motel 100 miles or so away, I drew the star map from memory on my tablet. I sent it to an astronomer friend who was living his dream in an isolated observatory, with the question, "Recognize this?" The text came back quickly. How the hell did you get hold of this? It's an incredibly detailed chart highlighting Betelgeuse in our galaxy. Never seen the like. Likely to go supernova sometime in the next 100,000 years, we think. I texted back. Sooner than you think. Train your telescope. The travel agent's sales talk came clearly to my mind. Get yourself a ringside seat. Well, I hope you enjoyed your little trip to the Infinity Agency, and you want to listen to more podcasts, which you can find on my YouTube website, Memories, Dreams and Nightmares. In the meantime, if you prefer to read novels, plays, short stories, my website, www.jacksanger.com, may be just the thing for you. In the meantime, please subscribe and, if you can, share the link with friends. That's all for now. Thank you for listening. See you next time. Bye bye. Bye bye.